I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Kat Kim Greenberg. I am a career engagement educator from the UCLA Career Center, and I'm your host for the evening. And if you could, please introduce yourself, your current position and organization, and give us a brief overview of your own career journey.
Oh, should I just go first over here?
Who goes first?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a really good question. I will open it up. So Danny, since you spoke first, would you like to go?
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Danny Alexander. I'm at the Agency for Performing Arts. We're in Beverly Hills. I am a TV scripted agent in our scripted literary department, which is a fancy way to say I work primarily with writers and directors in the TV space primarily, and streaming as well. Also working producers, intellectual property, all that fun stuff. But on the seller side, shopping material for development, staffing writers into potential writers' rooms, upcoming pilots, directors, all that good stuff. For me, I'm from the Midwest. I grew up in Indiana, outside Chicago. I went to Indiana University for undergrad. I graduated in 2012 and moved out here like a month later. It was the first time I ever came to LA. And so I didn't know anyone when I came out here, had no money, which was probably a bad idea at the time for a while. Yeah, I've been out here for 8 years and did a lot with networking and getting to where I am now. So that's me.
All right, I'll jump in here. Hi, everyone. My name's Molly Kemper. Just a bit of an update there to my title, actually. I'm a recruiter on the University Relations team at WarnerMedia. So I'm part of our internship recruitment team and help to run the internship program. I've been with the company for just over 6 years now. I started in intern recruitment, spent a few years in full-time recruitment, primarily on the finance side, and then I've been back on our intern team for a few years now. And then prior to WarnerMedia, actually, I worked in my university's career center. So I've been on both sides, really enjoy working with students, and I'm happy to talk to y'all today.
I'll go ahead and go next. My name is Cecilia Lesbron. I work with Danny at Agency for the Performing Arts in Beverly Hills. I'm the Vice President and Head of Human Resources. My career journey is a little strange. I went to University of Arizona in Tucson. I'm the oddball in my family who wanted to leave the entire family and move to Los Angeles and work in entertainment. Specifically, I wanted to work in marketing at a record label, which I did. I worked at Warner Brothers Records for 4 years in the post-Napster, pre-iPod times, long time ago, if anybody remembers those. And I ended up deciding to make a very strange career shift into human resources. Once I kind of saw maybe some instability in the departments I was in, seeing departments go from 14 people to 4 people. And during that time, I saw a head of HR at our company who just stood out from any other human resources person I had come in contact before. I thought they were not my favorite people. I thought they were robotic. I thought that they were not approachable. And I just met somebody who ended up being my mentor who, all of a sudden I thought, I'm just like him. That's what I'm supposed to do. So my journey's taken me to many different companies, to pre-WarnerMedia, when it was Warner Brothers Studios, I was there. I worked at CAA, I worked at NBC Universal, and now I'm happy at APA.
Hi guys, I'm Shahin Mohammadkhani. I oversee engineering at Sony Pictures Entertainment. I've been at Sony for about 6 years now. Before that, I was at CBS, where I was in charge of Entertainment Tonight, Rachel Ray, all the cool shows. I went to Long Beach State for my bachelor's. I majored in computer science. I got my master's at Northwestern when I was in Chicago, and I've worked at startups. I've worked at medium-sized companies in many industries, from government to fintech to online marketing to retail engineering. And now I'm in entertainment. And if you're in LA, you're either going to be in a major financial institution or in an entertainment industry. Those are the big ones, or healthcare. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. All right. So the pandemic, it's affected a lot of different industries in a lot of different ways. But we've all seen that difficult times spur innovation and create new opportunities. So we'd like to hear from you. What kind of changes have you observed in your organization and in the industry as a whole?
I can start with that. I always say, through difficulty and adversity, there's always opportunity. I want to say it was for the entertainment industry in itself. It was a pretty big shock. However, it was how we responded to the event that made us be successful. And within Sony Pictures, we had just started our digital transformation phase on becoming much more nimble organization, much more fluid, supporting a hybrid working model. And the COVID or the pandemic really, I want to say, increased the velocity of how quickly we had to adapt, and actually offered a lot of opportunities in our technology and how we address a lot of our events. Where in the past, we usually have a yearly event on a Sony Pictures lot where we invite vendors and exhibitors and kind of showcase all of our intellectual property we have in our trailers. But it was a human to human interaction. Losing that allowed us to actually gain additional insight or more insight into our users, because we had to now build a streaming service for our partners, which allowed us to be able to more accurately measure their engagement within our IP, and allow us to have a better report even though it's electronic, with our vendors, and really understand what they like and what they don't like. From a working model, I want to say our teams became much more effective in time management, because realizing that you can't work from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, and you have to have better time management, allowed the team to really kind of address the high priority, important value at work rather than the busy work. So we reduced a lot of meetings, we reduced a lot of I want to say busy work, and really got to the work that added value. And so I want to say those are like the top three things that really allowed us to change as an organization.
Yeah, I feel like piggyback on Shahin, when that's so fascinating coming from your end, because it feels like at the beginning there were so many question marks about how we were going to work from home. Is the technology going to be there for us to work from home and do that? So like a lot of the IT departments, I give a lot of credit to those sides for all these companies, including ours, just because it was 200 to 500 people company. Getting them set up within weeks of just like chaos was like very impressive. Because I think if you told the same people like a few weeks before all that happened that it was impossible to stream your desktop from home, now here we are. But the time management thing was really fun. I appreciate you saying that, because I think that's something that we talk about. I think we talk a bit more about that now more than ever, because it's working from home has just been a big part of my side of things, when it comes to execs and producers, to the studio network side, and then from us working with our clients. We're doing a lot of our business from home, and especially with writers. I'll tell you, like the previous year before that, we were dealing with a situation in the Writers Guild where we weren't working with writers. And I was more busier last year than I was the year before that. Like this was a very fruitful, productive year in terms of staffing, in terms of development, especially as production started ramping up again, like last fall. It's just coming back again. And so, I mean, you're seeing people at home, content has never been better in terms of consumption. So it's been fruitful for us on our end in terms of being a seller's market. And so with that, working from home, being able to work, I almost feel like we've gotten too efficient, where there's always emails going out, and there's always, BA, you get a counter on Saturday night, and now you're thinking about all Sunday. And it's like that, thinking about like defining your time when you're going to work and when you need to go take that time off or decompress. It's really important to service your clients and like work well with your colleagues in terms of the mental health of all of it. But yeah, it was a very drastic change. We're using this software that allows us to use our desktop from home. We're talking to a lot of execs people directly through cell. If I had a count, I've been on at least 1,000 Zooms in the past year, and like I do like 40 minutes on a Zoom, and it's a lot. It's a lot if it's, just a lot of, what it used to be. So I think we're hoping for some compromise when we all get back to post-war times. But we'll see how things look. I would just say, I think it's been amazing how much, at least on my end of the industry, I know a lot of the touring side hasn't been as, easy to kind of work this whole time, but it has been impressive how efficient we have been with the technology we have in 2020, 2021 to continue to do our work. But it's now become a question of like, okay, what is that life going to look like now post-pandemic, and how much are we going to keep being at home, not having to commute? It's crazy. You think about how you're in your car almost 2-3 hours a day in LA. And it's like, that's a lot of time spent not working and dealing with stuff. So yeah, reading a lot of what Shahin said, it's a lot of time management, because it's like, I almost feel like we've gotten even more efficient than ever with the time we're saving and working from home.
I'll piggyback on Danny's comments. So at APA, Danny's in the literary group, we have the talent group, physical production, but another one of our largest groups is our concerts and touring area. And obviously that kind of came to a halt entirely. So the most revenue is generated when summer tours start, which is usually like mid to end of May, but definitely full force in June. And that goes through usually right to about like mid-December, right? So, that's a very fruitful part of the year, because that's when that, like I said, that department is generating all of their revenue. And, all of a sudden it's March last year and you think that revenue is coming, and then it just doesn't. And it's not coming this year either. So that's us, that's every other major agency as well. So there's a course correction going on there. I think a lot of agencies are looking at their clients because now they have, they have less people in their music and touring departments, right? So then they're going to service less clients, and which clients are they going to focus on? So I think that's a tough decision that everyone at the agencies is having to deal with right now, if they're in that part of the business, and most of them are. I would also say, just agreeing with what everybody else saying, just adapting to what it's like to work from home. I've got laundry in right now, but I usually commute an hour each way, and then there's the getting ready and this and that. And, it's, 6:30, 7 a.m. I'm in my pajamas and I'm working already. So that's time too. So I'm probably working more than ever right now. Yeah. Not because I necessarily planned to, but the world was closed. So what else are you going to do? We've already watched everything that we can watch. So sometimes, when there's a lot going on, it's, maybe not the distraction that everybody wants, because you want to have a work-life balance, but it's the distraction that you have, and you're happy to have a distraction in the time where there's not a lot of other options.
And I would echo everything the other panelists have said, and I guess just a couple things to add to that. Personally, for my role, what I was really nervous about when this all first started, but I'm very grateful we were able to pivot, is we previously didn't let our interns work from home. We were very traditional in that our interns had to be in the office. Even if some of our employees were working part-time from home, our interns were in the office. So I was afraid, we were going to lose the intern program, but it is maybe a little bit smaller than it would be in a pre-pandemic world, but that we were able to pivot to virtual, that had a significant impact on my role. And I think one of the, maybe we didn't consider at the beginning, but added bonuses of that is that we're now able to have interns who may otherwise not have been able to intern with us. Like we've had interns who are based in LA working for a team, in New York, or someone in Idaho working for a team in Atlanta, that we've been able to offer that flexibility as kind of the silver lining in this whole circus of the last year. And then also from a business perspective, it, HBO Max was already in progress, but it only accelerated the importance of that and the impact it's had on our business. Just a couple things to add there.
I actually have one more thing that you reminded me of is, we as a company usually have a number of entry-level roles in our agency training program. And the trainees usually start in the mailroom. They fill in on people's desks when they're on a PTO day or out sick. And that's like it's a great way for people to started an agency and kind of ease themselves in, sample a few departments, figure out what they like and where they think they fit best. It's just a great starting point. And unfortunately, we don't have any trainees right now. We have one. So that is something that has been really, really difficult for us over the past year is, we've been closed and we haven't had need. We've had need, but the company is closed. So it's very difficult sometimes. We're looking at fresh new grads for the training program. And sometimes people are a little too fresh and a little too new to go straight to a desk. But that's something we've kind of had to deal with as there's been some natural attrition in our industry. And it's been tough. It's been really, really tough because how do you learn from home, right? You're not hearing your, colleague next to you on the phone with their boss, right? Just those things that you pick up and you learn in the office are really, really important. And especially like virtual internship programs. I just really feel for all the students who, because it's so much better in person. We couldn't get it together, quite frankly, to do a virtual internship program. But it's just, there's so many missed learning opportunities, unfortunately, since we've been closed. And we're really looking forward to moving past this and being able to, like I said, provide that hands-on training. There's a lot of shadowing and just things that are a lot more difficult to do right now from home.
Thank you all so much for your insights and your perspectives. Yeah, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of us have had to learn how to pivot and do things differently. And we really appreciate, your transparency and kind of giving our students some of those insights. So are there any specific opportunities that your organizations currently or will be hiring for in the future that you would like to highlight?
I can go quickly there because I assume some of you all on the call may be wondering about this. Our summer internship application period has closed at this point. If you're awaiting feedback, you should hear within the next week or two. We're really trying to wrap that up. Our fall internships will be virtual. They will be part-time. We should be posting those late May, early June and those will all be on our career site. On the full-time side, we hire primarily on like a real-time or as-needed basis. So it's really just a matter of keeping up with our career site. What comes available around month and a half of when you would be available to start is really that sweet time to start applying. That kind of perfect spot. But all our recruitment timelines vary, so it's just really a matter of what need becomes available. But you can set an alert on our career site. So if you're not seeing what you're looking for right now, you can set it so that it'll email you when those types of roles become available.
Kat, can I clarify? So is it just students on this Zoom, or is there also alumni?
So these are all students, but there's several of them that will be graduating very, very shortly. There may be some actually who have graduated last quarter.
Got it. So for APA, we always have opportunities. They're always real time, and we're always looking to fill them immediately. So there's times when we hire somebody on a Friday and they start on a Monday. So it is that quick because, like I said, without having our agency training program up and running, normally there are internals who are familiar with our office, the names of the people who work with us, our clients, and we don't have that right now. So it's really, really, again, difficult to train working from home. And so we're looking for people who then can start immediately and train with the outgoing assistant. So the assistant usually, hopefully, they have, if they're doing it right, will give us 2 weeks notice, as they should. And then we're just scrambling right now to get somebody in, hopefully, so that they can train that whole second week. All of our opportunities are posted on our careers page. It's apa-agency.com. And then they always go to entertainmentcareers.net as well. But you can always find all of our open opportunities there. We do currently have the agency trainee program posted up there, but we keep that posted all year. We are looking to figure out when we're going to go back to the office. So at some point we will be hiring for that. So yeah, just take a look. It's always constantly updated.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. Shahin, do you have anything to share about your organization?
Yeah, I was trying to find the unmute button real quick. So regarding the opportunities, I would say for those who are looking, you know, depending, I don't know the demographic or what majors are within this their group. You know, there are opportunities from business analysts or actually the IT developers to full on, you know, creative positions available within Sony. Understanding where you think you excel I think, is the key, and working on your strengths of what you think you want your career to take on, and starting with that role is critical to your career success. And within IT, we are pushing really hard for data, right? The data scientists, data engineers. We want to stay much closer to the user behavior. So if you're a math major, computer science, computer engineering, stats major, any of those that have some programming knowledge, data science and data engineering are something that we're looking to grow. We do have internships. We're going to be opening up our fall internship pretty shortly, and we're going to be announcing them. However, if there are students that are interested in, just for the sake of being at Sony or are interested within Sony Pictures, I'll share my LinkedIn, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and you know, I'll do anything within my power to make sure that I position you guys within the organization in a way where you're successful. I'm very responsive on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out to me there.
Thank you so much, Shahin. Yes, panelists, if you would like to share your LinkedIn URL with the students, please feel free to throw them in the chat. And, you know, thank you so much for your wisdom. You know, I think I hear a lot from undergraduate students in particular who are about to graduate, a lot of concern around what to apply for. Sometimes it's not very obvious, you know, what they should be applying for, or they don't have a full comprehensive understanding of what titles to look for. And so really approaching it from a skills and strengths perspective is really important. So really start to think about what skills you want to be using on a day-to-day basis, what skills you've developed, even in a setting outside of the type of organization that you want to be stepping into. So just because you want to go into entertainment, but you don't yet have experience in entertainment, that's okay. Focus on what skills you've developed and how those transfer over to the types of roles that are available. Great. All right. So our next question is, from your perspective, what qualities or characteristics make a competitive candidate?
I can start with this one. Interestingly, I rarely look for technical knowledge, to be honest with you, when I hire anybody. And obviously depending on the position, if it's a senior role, you have to have some experience. I've made multiple hires in a more junior position out of college, or with maybe 1 or 2 years experience. And the 3 things I always look for, and are essentially the deciding factor for whether someone works in my group or not, are aptitude, attitude, and communication, period. Do you have the desire to learn, and are you the type of person who's willing to find the answer no matter what, right? Because it's unrealistic for anyone to expect of you to know the answers or know how to address things off the bat. But being resourceful and understanding what you have at your disposal is great, and that in itself is a science. Attitude, you know, failures happen, disagreements happen, conflicts happen. How do you address them, and how you always keep a positive mindset and a positive outlook, and realizing that we're all trying to solve a problem. The problem is the problem, not the people, is huge in becoming successful. And communication. And when I say communication, is communicate your thoughts, communicate your weaknesses, and anyone who's your superior or who's your leader is there to support you to become successful. by hiding your weaknesses is actually you're hurting yourself. But by going up to your peers and going up to your seniors and say, hey, I'm having trouble understanding this, or I'm having trouble accomplishing this task early on, you will actually gain more trust. And in today's world, trust is much more important than knowledge, because we know that you're willing to do the work, and a lot of the people in leadership are willing to put the time in to educate those in their group to help them become successful. I'd say those are the three qualities, with some experience over time, but experience can be gained, and you just need practical hands-on time with that.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Shahin just said. You know, especially for what I do, you know, and at working on agency, and I think a lot of agents would agree, it's very apprentice driven. You know, like there's not a lot of what we do day to day that you learn in a textbook or from a slideshow presentation. It's very much working directly with other agents or bosses and learning from them. You know, and hopefully you know, for me, a big goal of mine when I came out here was to find a good mentor of what I wanted to do and learn from them, and just ask as many questions. So, you know, I don't directly hire people for our mailroom, but I recommend, and I'll interview people. And then even for my own desk, you know, the things that I really look for, I think the biggest thing working at an agency is just you really give a crap, you know. Like I think that is like half the battle, is like you want to be there and you know why you want to be there. You know, we're talking a lot about you know, your first job, where to start. I think agencies are a great place to start, but if someone comes in and they're not quite sure why they're just there because someone told them to, that's a huge red flag, because you know, the work can get busy and like there's a lot thrown at you. And like Shahin said, it's like we need someone who has a thick skin, not necessarily because we're going to yell at you, because that toxic lifestyle is not, we don't foster that APA, but it's more of there's a lot coming at you. You have a lot of personalities you deal with. And so we need candidates who we can trust, who if they make a mistake, no matter how big or small it is, that they tell us first so we can try to fix it together, or they can learn from their mistake. And, you know, just really learn how to apply themselves and understand how different types of folks who are above them do this work, so that they can take all these experiences and decide for themselves as they get into that position, what type of exec or agent they would like to be. So I think that for me, it always just, that's like the majority of it, is like knowing why you want to be there. You don't have to come in. I personally don't think you have to come to an agency and say, I want to be an agent, because then we'll really grill you as to why exactly you want to be an agent. If you just said that just to say it, we'll know quickly. But I'd rather you say, like, I'm not quite sure, but I want to work in television because I'm fascinated in the development process. I want to learn about this or that. Just that you've had a methodical understanding about this and you've taken that time. Because like Shahin said, a lot of what we do day to day, I didn't learn this in Indiana. I didn't learn this in IU. You know, a lot of it I had to learn directly from bosses and asking questions and learning, even when I became a coordinator to an agent. And you will continue, you make mistakes. And even as an agent, you will make a mistake. And you have to learn to roll those punches, understand that this is a very human-driven business. So there are those margins of error, and you know, be willing to kind of toughen that out. So I think that is accessible, no matter what type of person you are. I think that at least that is a common denominator you should have in this industry, no matter where you end up, is just wanting to put yourself and apply yourself and understand why you're there, because this is a 24/7 business. So
I agree with everything that everyone has said, but I especially agree with everything Danny said about having methodical understanding about the role you're applying for. There are a lot of roles at studios and places where they say they would really prefer somebody with 1 year of agency experience. So some people are coming just because they want that, and that's fine too. But we want to know why you want the job that you are interviewing for, not why you want a job at all. I interviewed somebody last week who was just so sweet and so kind and really just wanted to do anything at all. And that's great, but I was interviewing this person for a specific job and they kept mentioning other skills and other things that they did that didn't relate. So I would say the biggest thing for me, huge, is maturity. Maturity is huge for me. And somebody who is humble. There's less people who are humble these days. And a hustler. You know, we've talked about being resourceful and like learning how to navigate, but especially, you know, if you're resourceful, if somebody told you there's $1 million at the top of that tree over there, you'd figure out how to get to the top of the tree. So we want you to climb the tree every single day. Somebody who's, again, Shahin said, ask questions. I ask questions all the time. And I didn't feel as comfortable asking questions when I was an assistant, but now I'm on conference calls and I'm just like, if I don't know, somebody else doesn't know. I'm not, so I have no problem raising my hand and saying, wait, what does that mean? Or what does that acronym stand for? Or what is this? I think it's just, you're being transparent and you're trying to learn. And those are just my most important qualities. And I think I look for every single one of them in every single candidate.
And I would echo everything all of the other panelists have said. A few, I guess, key things that are unique is obviously, recruiting for internships are recruited for many different types of positions. So there are certain specific things to each role. But what I've noticed in some of our most successful interns are those who have those strong communication skills that I think everyone else has spoken about. And by strong communication skills, I don't mean that you have to be the most outgoing person in the room all the time, just that you're responsive, that you're proactive in your communication, that you don't wait for a mistake to get caught. We understand mistakes happen, but that you're honest and upfront about it. Just being very responsive in those skills. And then also having those strong relationship building skills. I don't mean that you have to know someone to get in. That's not what I'm getting at. It's just more so of like, when you do have those opportunities to meet people or get exposed to people, taking that time to build those relationships, because developing that, if you can, mentor-mentee type of relationship or making those genuine connections is helpful long-term. So I would encourage you to take the time to build those relationships within, companies or industries you're interested in. And then another thing too that I can't remember exactly who brought it up, but having that genuine interest in the position you're applying for, especially at an entry level, we don't expect you to be like, I want to be in this role for the rest of my career, because I had no idea when I graduated that I would be where I am now. We don't expect that, but just more so being able to speak to why you are interested in that role, at least, for now. A lot of teams understand that there's a high level of interest in entertainment, but they don't want to feel like they're just the foot in the door. They like to feel that, they specifically are wanted or a position that's of interest to you. So kind of along that line, I would also recommend just staying aware of what's going on in the entertainment industry. Because what I have noticed in some interviews is some of my hiring teams will bring up like just some recent news item, even if it's a small talk to get the conversation going, but it can help kind of elevate those, how you stand out in an interview if you are able to speak to some of the major, recent occurrences in the industry.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I heard lots of nuggets of wisdom, and I think that it's something that students can really take away. A lot of the skills that employers are looking for are things that take time to build. So and some of the more soft skills, like your ability to tailor your communication style and work with different people who have diverse personalities and come from different backgrounds. Your ability to build and maintain relationships with people. These are all skills that you can also not only take some time to build and develop, but which can be developed in a lot of different settings. And so I encourage you all to really reflect on the experience that you have. Don't be intimidated if you don't have experience in the entertainment industry quite yet. Everybody had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Great, thank you. All right, so our next question is, what are some strategies or measures that students can take to make themselves stand out during the recruitment process? I know that you've mentioned some of the qualities that you look for in a candidate, but is there anything that comes to mind that they can do proactively to make themselves be more competitive during the actual process of recruitment?
Sorry, go ahead, Cecilia.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so one quick thing, because this is something I could probably go on about for an hour, but a key point is really make sure your resume is clear and to the point. I've seen some beautiful work of art resumes and I can't find an email address. How am I supposed to, so it's like being very clear and intentional with that. And then also, I wouldn't rely on your cover letter to tell the story, because we can't guarantee that every single hiring manager is going to read it. Your resume should have everything we need to know for why you're a fit for the role, and then that cover letter can have additional info. So that's just a couple points I wanted to mention. I
agree. I think cover letters are important. It shows me if you can write. It shows me if they're particularly important for people who want to pivot into something, if you had all production internships and you're looking to get into our talent department or our literary department, that's where you tell me, right? Because the resume is where you list all of your experience at your level. It shouldn't be more than a page, right? I see some like 8-page ones that are a little too much, but the resume should have your experience. And then if you're trying to tell us something that's not on the resume, that's what goes on the cover letter, where you say, I had 5 production internships, but I really realized that I want to do this instead. Because sometimes I need a speak point for a hiring manager to say, yes, I know that this resume says this, but here's why I spoke to this person, right? And their cover letter said the same thing and blah, blah, blah. Use that to tell your story. Don't go through your whole resume and put a really, really long cover letter. A lot of people in entertainment, we speak in bullet points. So we might not get through the whole thing if it's a whole page cover letter. Like I said before, do your homework on the company and the job, that job in particular that you're applying for. If you are applying at a large company, the studios, they're probably doing a keyword search through the resumes. So if there are keywords that are in their job description that they're using, those keywords, make sure that they're listed in your resume, whether they be qualities or skills, because they're probably, if they get 1,000 resumes, they're probably searching. Also, I would say, somebody already said, figure out what's going on in the entertainment industry. You can go to deadline.com, and you can see entertainment news every day. Everybody I know in the industry goes there and gets their news. It's a free way for you to stay up to date on the most important things going on. And also, I would just say, it doesn't have to be perfect, but there are a lot of times that I interview new grads and every other word is So I tell them, and I just say, if you think about it, has no value. So if you just slow it down a little bit and pause, you can omit it. And you just tell your roommate or your mom or your brother or whoever, just be like, hey, pinch me every time I say the word but just slow down, and you can get rid of it, but that will set you apart from other candidates. I think that's all I have.
Maybe I should stop that too.
I do it too.
What I would recommend, and I've seen this in the past, don't lie on your resume. It's really easy within the first minute of talking to anyone. It may pass through the recruiters because, for whatever reason it passes, but when it comes to the hiring manager, guaranteed within the first 30 seconds, they can find out whether you have the experience or the knowledge or not. So don't lie, you're losing credibility around that. Now you're making me very conscious, Cecilia. Now I'm going to make sure I don't do any honest.
I do it too, but there's the people that say every other word.
Yeah.
So what I would also add is there are techniques, tips and tricks in how you interview where you can take control of the interview process. And there's a science to it as well. There are YouTube videos you can watch. There are books you can read. Most of it is also just as the company is interviewing you, and I know it's hard when you're trying to just land a job, you're also interviewing the company. You got to make sure that the hiring manager has the same morals as you, or is a hiring manager that you'd like to have. Do you want to have do you see a micromanager and someone who's going to tell you every day what to do? Or do you see yourself as more of a self-leader person and you like to have a space to make decisions, even as an entry level? Understanding the relationship that you can have with the hiring manager is critical. Do research on your position and what the industry pay rate is for as well. There will be companies who will probably ask you, what is your salary range? In my opinion, saying I'm open to anything, it just shows that you haven't done research and you don't know where the industry is standing for. So giving a range will provide the hiring person with an understanding of what you're looking for, but also will show them that, okay, they've done some research that falls in line. Those are some of the recommendations I can make.
I guess the only other thing I would add, and this is probably, it's more subjective, I think, case by case. But I think just being proactive, you know, I think when you submit yourself on websites or whatever general portal that you're putting your resume in, it's kind of going into a system or list or grid or wherever it is. And, you know, I think some companies might be good with it and staying on it and tracking, but I just think about, you know, even my own experiences, like where I got feedback and where I got actual interviews from. And I even think about now with staffing, what that looks like. And it's not automated. Otherwise my job would be extinct. It's like, there's a lot of personal connection to it as well, and being proactive about people you're excited about. So I would say, like, you know, even the companies that you are, if you feel like you're excited to work on the studio side or at an agency or certain production companies, it wouldn't hurt either, even just to, like, you know, reach out, you know, if there's like a general HR person or assist or some sort of coordinator there, to like reach out to show your excitement, enthusiasm for the said company, to keep you in mind for upcoming opportunities. You know, you can kind of tell when, like, if there's going to be summer interns or maybe there's some in the fall. You know, but even like top of the year tends to be a good time when assistants roll over, like post holidays. But even just like staying on top of the companies that you are personally excited about and keeping it a wider target than less, you know, getting proactive and ahead of it can be helpful too, just because people see, okay, these are the individuals who would really kill to be in here. So I think that would make an impression depending on where you go. But to caveat that, don't harass people, because you know, there's a fine line to it. But you know, it's something to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what I'm hearing here is a common theme of preparation. Preparation is key. I know that for a lot of students and also recent graduates or soon to be graduates, it's tough to balance out, you know, volume with quality. Like, you need to get as many applications out there because it is kind of a numbers game, but at the same time, you need to be really paying attention to the quality of what you submit and be prepared for a very quick recruitment timeline. You just never know, because recruitment timelines can vary dramatically between different organizations and the needs of the organization and the internal processes. So do your research. And then, you know, when it comes to preparing for interviews, you want to do that in advance, not just when you think you're about to get one. So start thinking about that now. Think about how to answer some of those tougher interview questions. There's also happen to be the more common ones, like, tell me about yourself, give me a strength and a weakness, right? Figure those things out. If you have verbal tics, you know, manage them early, and it should be okay, right? But preparation. Okay, so I want to go ahead and make sure that we have enough space for our student Q&A before we get into the breakout rooms themselves. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing really quickly, and I'm going to open up the chat. So one of my colleagues, Ale, shout out to Ale Garcia from the Career Center, has been kind of collecting some of the questions that students have been submitting. So let me go ahead and pull those up. All right. So the first question we have from a student is around opportunities for international students who would need visa sponsorship. So at UCLA in particular, we do have a fairly large population of international students who are really excited about opportunities in entertainment, but, you know, are having a hard time navigating that. So what are some opportunities, you know, for students who are international, or what does that process look like? Is there any information that you'd like to share with those students?
That's a tough one. For us, we don't sponsor, unfortunately.
I would say for us, Sony sponsors here and there. Sponsorship is it's a lengthy process, and it's a laborsome process. So there's a little bit of work on both ends. What I would recommend, and this is what we've done in the past, is a lot of entertainment firms or firms work with managed service companies, like vendor companies, who we contract out our development resources from. And those companies do sponsorships very, very much more quickly because they're international. They have an international representation in terms of labor. I would recommend, if you see a company that's not sponsoring directly, it would be good to ask them, hey, what are some of the managed service vendors you're working with? And reaching out to those individuals, seeing what their sponsorship model is. And they can help you guide through the process as well.
Just to add to that for us, on the student side, it is much easier than on the full-time side. Generally, I'll say that with the preface of, not an expert, but we do have international students in our internship program every term. I'm working with some right now, hiring them for summer. Typically that's CPT, which you get through your school, but we do work with you to try to make that happen. So typically on the internship side, we're able to make it work. On the full-time side, it's really a case-by-case basis. We don't have a universal yes or no stance. So I would say it's worth applying, but just be upfront with the recruiter about it if you are contacted for further consideration, and they'll be honest with you of how likely or not it is for that position. But that would be my thought there.
Thank you for sharing. So Molly, as a follow-up question, when do you think, and anybody else can respond to this as well, when do you think would be a good time for an international candidate to divulge that information during the recruitment process? Because, they understand that it's a little sensitive. They know that they have to self-advocate and really make a case for why they're worth it. But when do you think is a good time to bring that up?
So I believe, at least for most of our positions, in the questions when you submit your application, I believe that the applicants are asked that. So it's something the recruiter should have access to. But regardless, I would be, this is my personal opinion, but I would be honest with it up front, because it's probably a situation where they know whether or not we can. And the longer it's kept a secret, the more difficult it likely will be to be able to make that happen. So I would just recommend being straightforward about it.
Thank you. All right, so we have a second question from a student. What is a good salary range for a paid summer internship?
I'll say this: Sony pays $18 for undergrad, $25 for graduate students internships. So that's the salary for internship. You gotta get what you are given, I would say.
Yeah, ours is similar. We do have set rates for our internships. So for the rate that the recruiter gives you, it's not like we're trying to see if we can get you, cheaper or anything like that. We do have set rates. The rates vary based on where the internship would have been located if it was in person, the level of education, and also in some cases the function within the company. So we do start at 18, and then it goes up from there and varies. For all of our LA and New York based roles, they start at 18. Atlanta's a little bit lower, but yeah, comparable to Sony.
Yeah, for us, unfortunately, we would probably pay $15 an hour. We don't have internships right now, but we would probably be 15.
Great, thank you. And I do see that type of range. I think that's a pretty normal range that you're going to find. I think that something else for students to consider and keep in mind is when an internship requires credit, right? So that is also something that you want to be mindful of. Some internships may require that you receive credit or offer credit. If that's the case, you will need to make sure to connect with your academic advisor to make sure that that's possible. I've had students go through an entire recruitment process only at the end to realize that they're not actually enrolled in an internship course and have to reject the offer. So make sure that you're really, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, and really paying attention to some of the details. All right, so it looks like we don't have any more questions. And we do have about 3 minutes left before we head into the networking portion. Do you have any last pieces of advice that you would like to depart to our students today?
This isn't necessarily a piece of advice quite, but just to add on to what you said about the academic credit piece. Since all of our internships are paid and we require that students are eligible to work for pay, we don't do volunteer-based ones. We don't require that you get academic credit. You do need to be considered a currently enrolled student. You can't have graduated, but we don't require you to be getting academic credit for the internship. But if that is something you're hoping to pursue, I also recommend being honest with, if it's me you're talking to or one of the other internship recruiters, that is something you're looking for, because there's often paperwork that comes along with that, and depending on how lengthy the agreement is, we may have to get approval from our legal team to complete it. So just being honest about that you may need help with some of that down the line, I would recommend.
This was just final, like just general advice. I don't know. I think, like everyone said, make sure you have a clean resume. People are spending 30 seconds to a minute on looking at it. When you interview, make sure you do your homework, be yourself, show passion, be methodical, and just be proactive, be excited, and understand what you're applying for and why you want to be there.
I don't really have anything to add that hasn't already been said.
This one piece, this has pretty much been covered, but just to build off of a couple of points that a few of you have started to make, as much as you think you know what a team wants, be your best self, be professional, but be yourself in the interview, because oftentimes that's the only time you've met that person. They're hiring who they interview. So if you pretend to be a certain way or pretend to be a certain type of person, that's who they're going to expect throughout the internship. And we really want employees to be their genuine selves at work. So just as much as it's nerve-wracking, be as natural and be as you as you can be.
Yeah.